Part 101. This is Tim Drake, otherwise known as Robin. And honestly, he might be a runner-up with Kyle Rayner as DC's Spider-Man. But why? Let me explain. This all takes place in Identity Crisis issue number 5, where Jack Drake, Tim's dad, receives a box. And inside there's a weapon and a note that just says protect yourself. Jack panics and calls Batman. He hears movement on the roof. While on the phone with Batman and Robin, he says, "Just keep my boy safe." And Batman responds with, "Not again." As soon as we see the person who broke into Tim Drake's house is Captain Boomerang. The two lock eyes and unleash their weapons, unfortunately resulting in both of them getting taken out. Unfortunately, Tim arrives too late and sees his dad passed away on the floor. And Batman begins comforting the boy, saying, "I've got you." You might be asking yourself, who hired Captain Boomerang and who sent Jack the box? It was actually the same person responsible for Sue Dibney passing away as well. The Atom's ex-wife, Jean Loring. Part 102. This is Karen Page from Daredevil, but you might recognize her from her live-action appearance in the Netflix Daredevil show. And just like in the show, her relationship with Matt is complicated. But let me explain why. Karen Page and Matt Murdock did have a good relationship at one point, but that all changed when she moved to Los Angeles, where she decides she's going to become an actress, but she doesn't star in typical films. You'll see what I mean. Yeah, let's just say that she stars in more adult material. And yes, this is how Daredevil finds out. And apparently he finds out at RST Video from Clerks, so that's pretty cool. But don't worry friends, it gets even worse from there. Because you see, she also gets addicted to heroin. While she's addicted, she straight up steals from a blind beggar. Okay, what else could she do? Well, she ends up selling out Matt Murdock's secret as being Daredevil, which makes it all the way up to the Kingpin. Okay, sure, she may have hit rock bottom. It can't get worse from here, right? Guess again. She decides to be a homie and takes a billy club from Bullseye, which takes her out with Daredevil's own weapon. Part 103. I recently covered some of Karen Page's backstory and her history with Matt Murdock. Now let's just say it was, tumultuous to say the least. However, there was a pretty glaring omission. And that, my friends, is how Karen got back to New York from Los Angeles, and the exact reasoning behind it. After she sells out that Daredevil's secret identity is Matt Murdock, and the news makes it all the way up to Kingpin, she finds out some pretty disheartening news from her doctor in Los Angeles. So she makes the trip all the way back to New York to tell Matt to his face. What could that news be? The fact that she is apparently HIV positive. Which, yes, is completely devastating, but why did I say apparently? Let me explain. You see, due to Karen's rampant drug use, and let's just say promiscuous lifestyle, it would be completely plausible that this once innocent girl contracted this terrible disease. Or maybe that's just what they want you to think. Because yes, Daredevil's former fling was actually lied to by the Master of Illusions himself, Mysterio, just to get her back to New York. Part 104. We all know there's some beef between Spider-Man and J. Jonah Jameson. And in this story, Spider-Man takes the mustachioed menace to court. Peter actually reaches out to She-Hulk, of all people, for representation. And Jennifer Walters, along with her co-counsel Pug, set up a defamation case. Yes, you heard me right. Spider-Man's taken J. Jonah Jameson to court for all of the horrific, slanderous things he's printed over the years. And Spider-Man gets asked by Pug, "Do you think you know why J. Jonah Jameson has had it out for you all these years?" And Spider-Man's response? "Because I'm black." Jameson is immediately caught off guard by this and starts pleading his case that he had no idea. That's when Spider-Man admits he was just kidding around, and the entire courtroom erupts into laughter. Later on, Peter Parker's called to the stand by Spider-Man's lawyers, since they didn't know that Peter is Spider-Man. He's actually accused of faking and staging his photos. And before the trial can go on too far, Spider-Man decides to settle. But as part of the settlement, J. Jonah Jameson and Peter Parker have to dress up as chickens in front of the Daily Bugle. Part 105. This is the DC Comics anti-hero, technically, Harley Quinn. And in this story, we're going over how sick and twisted her infatuation with the Joker truly is. This takes place during the Suicide Squad, issue number 7 from volume 4. Task Force X has to go into a police station and apprehend Harley Quinn. Meanwhile, she's reminiscing about her origin story, and you can see her with the Joker here. But she's able to get the drop on Deadshot, and ties him to a chair. And she tells him they need to talk. But she says it's not Deadshot she wants to talk to. And she cuts his face for good measure for some reason. That's when she reveals she has Joker's face, which was cut off by the doll maker. Yes, the Joker's face was cut off, and yes, the new 52 was edgy. Harley takes Joker's face and puts it on Deadshot, and forces him to have conversations as the Joker. Basically using the situation as a way to get her emotions out and to actually speak to the Joker. Yeah, except for she takes it a bit too far and starts making out with Deadshot. Deadshot, finally able to capitalize on the situation, blows her guts out. Part 106. This is Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, written by crazy old Frank Miller. And in this story, Batman removes Joker from this earth. Or did he? After Batman comes out of retirement, Joker comes out of a catatonic state. And long story short, he basically takes out David Letterman and an entire studio audience. Moving on. Batman chases Joker down to a tunnel of love, where he kind of snaps his neck a little. But it's worse than that, because he also gets stabbed in the eye with a batarang, and he ends up stabbing Batman. Yeah, you can see all the batarangs stabbed into Joker here. I don't know about you, I can't handle any kind of eye torture. As Joker's collapsed on the ground, he decides to get his final laugh on Batman, where, with the last of his strength, he contorts his body, snapping his own spine, ending himself on the spot. Batman proceeds to huck a loogie on the dead Joker's body. Okay, that's a choice. But with the Joker's body there, covered in Batman's DNA and his batarangs, it's easy to understand why the police would think he was responsible. And with that, Batman becomes public enemy number 1. Oh, plus the comic has this in it? Why, Frank? Part 107. Jean Grey from Marvel Comics, but you may recognize her as Phoenix or Dark Phoenix. But in today's video, we're going to focus on her time as Marvel Girl. And today we're actually going all the way back to X-Men issue number 3, where they fight the Blob, and you can see Jean over there. Our story starts off with the X-Men training together. And as the X-Men are getting ready to go take on the Blob, Professor X tells them to be careful. Jean responds to this by saying, "Don't worry, sir. Remember how well you trained us." But Professor X responds with, "Don't worry," as though I can help worrying about the one I love. But I can never tell her. I have no right. Not while I'm the leader of the X-Men and confined to this wheelchair. So at this point, Professor X is definitely a full-grown adult. He's in love with, effectively, a teenager. But really, the thing that makes the story pretty messed up is the fact that Charles Xavier was basically a surrogate dad to Jean. I mean, the love triangle between Wolverine, Cyclops, and Jean Grey was one thing, but this is next level. Part 108. This is Selina Kyle, otherwise known as Catwoman. And in today's video, we're going to be going over the time she hooked up with somebody else who wasn't Batman. This story takes place during Nightwing issue 52. Nightwing and Catwoman are trying not to be detected by guards. Thinking quickly, both of them go prone. Normal circumstances would be completely fine, but we're not dealing with normal people here. So of course they do what you'd think they do, and just start going at it. And of course, they keep going. They stop for a minute, have a bit of a chit-chat, and Selina says, "You like the danger. Let's get dangerous together." And they resume once the thugs start shooting at them. Why? Let's be completely honest here. Selina has absolutely no moral compass. And normally I'd expect more from Nightwing in this situation, but let's be honest here, he cheated on Starfire the night before their wedding. Between Catwoman hooking up with Batman and hooking up with Nightwing, she's basically working her way through the entire Bat family, which means it's only a matter of time until... Part 109. This is Mara, Queen of Atlantis. And usually she's married to Aquaman, but not in this comic. Let me explain. This is Aquaman issue number 44. And at this point, Mara and Aquaman have already split up, and you can see that Aquaman sneaks into her bedchambers. She is justifiably caught off guard and scared by the situation. And the two actually begin to argue with each other, until things began to take a more physical turn. Yeah, it gets pretty intense. And in the morning after some post-coital clarity, the two begin to get dressed and start talking about how the night was great. Until we see it wasn't Mara at all. In fact, it was somebody named Siren, who claims to be Mara's sister. Justifiably angry since Arthur basically was just assaulted, he begins to attack. When we're fighting, she begins to change back into Mara, saying if it helps, I can slip into something you'll find more comfortable. She then gets him in the chest and then calls in the Royal Guards. Good lord, Batman, Nightwing, Aquaman, who hasn't been assaulted in the DC Universe. Part 110. This is Felicia Hardy, otherwise known as the Black Cat. And today we're going to be talking about the time Peter revealed his true identity to her. This all goes down in issue number 87 of Spectacular Spider-Man. And as you can tell by her face, this isn't going to go well for Peter. Spider-Man and Black Cat were chasing each other through the city, in a loving and playful way. And Peter ends up taking her to his apartment. Needless to say, she is not impressed. She says that she has no idea how he's able to live here. And at this point, she knows full well that he's a photographer, and she is blown away that he doesn't have more money. Spider-Man then begins to recount key moments of his life, talking about the upbringing he had with Uncle Ben and Aunt May, as well as the fact that he really didn't have any friends. And as Spider-Man begins to remove his mask, revealing his identity, you can see the Black Cat is getting progressively more uneasy. Until finally, Peter reveals his face, and Felicia responds with, "Your mask. Please, put your mask back on." He says, "As Peter Parker, I leave you cold, but as Spider-Man, I turn you on." And she's like, "Yeah, pretty much."